Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this clip, and that's if you're watching it for those 3 followers that I've got out there. So today I'm going to try and sort out this rear panel. But it's just basically a piece of sheet steel that's flat, swage line put in, which I can show you how to do that on another video because I've got to put swage lines in other things. And just bent it into shape, roughly mimicking the original. However, I wanted a return edge on it because obviously when I have a trunk or boot lid on, I don't want water going in, whereas this without a return edge will just allow water when it rains into the boot itself. And I would say water, in case there's an American people looking, because obviously us English pronounce it really badly and go water, water. The original rear section curves both that way and that way. Now, in an ideal world, I would have English wheeled the middle, but I also don't know how to English wheel very well. So I'm going to basically shrink the edges, which will give me that curve that way. I'm going to do a little shrink there and a little shrink there, just to slightly turn it a little bit in. And then I'm going to use a plenishing hammer just to stretch the material in the middle, which then should naturally allow the metal to stretch out and give me that curve in both ways. So there are 2 ways of doing it. I'm choosing the hammer way. Starting with the bottom bit, I've made a stencil of these corners, so they obviously it matches both sides. So the plan is to make this out of a bit of steel following this radius here, and those are essentially going to be cut into here, welded in, and then we're going to knock around the radius. So centre lines are marked, however I just need to tweak the central panel very slightly because obviously, as you'll see, there's a bend in the back. Obviously this brace panel I've already put the curve in, so I just need to follow that now with this. So I'm going to take this over to the shrink stretcher and I'm just going to shrink this bit top and bottom, and hopefully that will pull it true. So let's see how this fits. Now obviously everything's a bit loose. I've only got one set of mould grips, so bear in mind the body lines ain't going to be perfect. But I just want to see roughly at the minute where we're sat. So this support bar needs cutting and twisting down just to bring that in a little bit, but got a nice corner there once that's all pulled up nice and true, and obviously ground back, and same with the other side. So Brucey bonus, we've got a much bigger bottom section than the original one. I've just now got to make these side bits into this. So as the old one has a little access area for the rear arch clamp, I've got to do the same with this one. So just following the angle all the way down, and then one of the return lips that I've cut off from originally at the top bit is going to get welded in to stiffen this panel up, and I'm going to do both sides. So let's get smashing! So I was going to weld these bits in, and then it dawned on me that I need to put a hole in that bottom panel to basically be able to pinch the outer wheel arch or fender to it as originally. So I've now made these kind of sections, and I've got a 5mm depth inwards, which is what the original one is, and I've just got to put a 90-degree bend in and then weld those in instead. So I'm going to start bending. I've got the tabs in. Now I haven't put any holes in because I'm not exactly sure at this moment where the hole needs to be. So we've got the little recess which matches the original on both sides. This bit can be trimmed at a later date, but now I'm just going to clean all this back with the grinder. So obviously you can see it's all welded all the way around, and we're going to smooth that off, and then we're going to look at bashing some big exhaust holes through. So the back apron's pretty much done, or the diffuser or lower bumper, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really sure what it's called on this. But once that's all kind of pulled where it needs to be, and this bottom bit is adjusted, that is mint. So obviously I need to bash a hole through it at a later date. Not sure where that needs to be, but at least there's a tab there for it. It's time to probably chuck some exhaust holes in. Let's see what this rear end's going to look like. Oh yeah! So the cutouts are cut out, and we're going to use that to French in the exhausts, just so it looks a lot neater, but also so I can do a bit of a pickup for the rear bumper, because there's going to be no bumper on show, but I kind of want something structural behind this just in case it gets rear-ended. I'd rather it kind of just mash a few panels and obviously collapse the whole back of the car. So I'm going to weld these in now and be really careful not to warp the panel. So I'm just going to do spot welds, spot welds, spot welds, and just leave it cool a lot in between. So it will take me a while, but once that's done, we're going to look at doing a brace piece in between, which I've got cut here. Hopefully it's long enough, and yeah, go from there. Hopefully we'll have like a secret hidden bumper behind this panel, but also so it's not on show through these swage holes. The lower section is pretty much finished. I've got to do a brace bar into the rear, but I'm not at that stage yet. Now, I should really be getting on with the next section up, which is obviously this curved bit. However, I really want to see what the exhaust looks like poking through here. So I'm going to leave metalwork for a little bit. I'm going to jump onto some stainless steel metalwork, and I'm going to basically make just this rear section simply so I can poke it through and have a look. Shouldn't take too long, so I'm just going to weld this up now and see what it looks like. So I dropped some tacks in, reason being is I wanted to make sure these lengths are correct. So they weren't, this one was originally slightly higher, so I've just had to chop it down a little bit more to make that meet. So then that's going to be perfect for when I weld the centerpiece in. As for purging before I weld, I'm going to be using Sift Flux, which is really good, rather than back purging. Pop it on the back of where you're welding on stainless, and it just basically acts as a back purge. So I'm going to weld these two bits up, leave them to cool, and then we're going to drop the center section in, and then we've got a full welded rear section of the exhaust. we've got bottom panel done, exhaust through the hole. That is also done, so that's going to get chucked to one side. This bottom panel is also going to get chucked to one side, and then we're going to get on with doing the next panel up. Now I'm going to bend all this before moving this bar, just simply because that only needs to go up like a few mil. It's not a big deal, so we're going to get this bent, and then I'm going to look at then I'm going to look at potentially Frenching in some more modern style lights. Now I have got the original Model A stalks. I've also got the proper kind of new version Model A LED rear tail lights. But with this back end looking a bit more kind of modern, I think really I've got to follow the theme of kind of Frenching in some kind of lights up here. Now we're going to go with red, 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 if that's the case. And then the indicators, because they need to flash amber in the UK, I'm going to chuck a green LED bulb in. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, the green LED bulb will flash amber or yellow. So yeah, let's get on with bending this bit up. And we might have something that kind of resembles a rear end on my Model A. So does it fit is the question. So I may have overshrunk it. No, look at that! Look at that! It needs to come back a little bit, but that is actually pretty sexy. Now there's a big flat spot in the middle. I'm going to address that in a minute. I know there's going to be a flat spot in the middle because obviously I haven't English wheeled it. And I also now need to shrink these two sections to just try and put a very small curve in this bottom piece. So once that's done, I can then hopefully sort out this ugly flat spot in the middle. So I've got the nice curve this way, I've got the curve that way, but now I'm left with a big flat spot in the middle where if I'd English wheeled it to begin with, i.e. if I knew what I was doing to begin with, this would all be nicely stretched and gone into a nice kind of curvature both ways. However, I'm now stuck with a hammer and dolly, so it's going to be a case of sitting here for probably about an hour, just tapping the metal, trying to stretch out the centre section till it kind of pops into the shape that I need it to go into. My tools haven't shrunk and I've definitely not grown. This is a child size English wheel. So basically the crack is I got bored with hammering and dollying. It was just taking forever and I'm not overly confident that I was doing it right anyway. So I thought, what shall I do now? Shall I just try and get this kiddie's toy to work? So I'm going to give it a go. My kind of main thing is to stretch the centre section so it sort of pops into shape. I don't know whether I'm going to make this back panel really bad or it's going to work, but we're just going to keep wheeling backwards and forwards and hoping for the best. So that's worked a lot easier. Got a nice curve in it. Now it is a bit wibbly wobbly, so I'm going to have a quick look on there to see whether once it's braced it'll be sound. But we've definitely got a curve all the way around. It looks loads better than it did a minute ago. So let's see what it looks like on the car. Now, I've got to be honest, I don't normally toot my own horn, but that is fucking mint. So, buzzing with that. That's exceeded my expectations, in all honesty. I thought it was going to look shit, but it actually looks half decent. So, yeah. Might treat myself to a wank after this. Oh, that is fucking sweet. Definitely would be rude at this point not to put the bottom on, just to kind of have an idea of what the back end looks like, because that looks a lot sweeter than the original one that was on there. About these sticking out looking absolutely awful. These are going to be Frenched in similar to how the exhaust was done. I've got some 3-inch mild steel that I'm going to basically cut into this panel and move these lights further back. It's just going to give the rear end of this Model A a much more modern look rather than the LED Model A standard lights that I was originally going to run. I think this will look a lot better with all the kind of the little trick bits at the back. So let's start Frenching. And I don't mean French kissing. Blah, blah, blah.